We're live, Stacey. It's our first live on Facebook together. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to our conversation and yeah, diving deep into relationships and what they're really and truly about and how we can create the relationships that we really want in life.
I love it. So if you've just tuned in or if you're tuning in later to watch, just to update you on what's going on. So Stacey Taylor is a men's coach and is doing the most phenomenal work in the field of the man. And I am a sacred relationship coach doing phenomenal work in the area of women. And like, don't you see it, Stacey, all the time? Like, I see it personally. Women go off and see coaches, men go off and see coaches. And sometimes people come together in a relationship and they might go to some couples counseling, let's say.
Mm.
But a lot of the work is still not done together. A lot
Mm.
of it is done so solo. And we do have to have our solo journeys, absolutely. But I think, men often hear it from men, women often hear it from women. And I think it's so important that we amalgamate the two and we start coming together because we're in this journey all together, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm really big on, people doing their own individual work, but if you're in a relationship, that's a part of your journey. So what are you doing to grow and expand it in a safe container or a safe place where you can like actually sit down in an environment where someone's holding space and you can talk about the shit that you don't want to talk about and you can face the parts of yourself that you don't want the other person to see, or you can bring to the table your needs. What do you need in this relationship? Because we're so often disconnected from sharing what we need and having our boundaries in place because we never learnt these things as children, and so they just spill over into our relationships. And often we just end up in a space where we're in a rut. We might be doing our own work, but we don't actually know how to bring the relationship back together because often the relationships led to us doing the work anyway. And there's often still a rift there that is in the unconscious or the subconscious that we actually have to, if we want to continue the relationship and expand it beyond what it is, we actually have to sit down and face that together.
Mm. And that's what we want to bring to the community, isn't it? The community that we're building together, Stace. We want to bring a platform where people come and can come and ask their questions, can bring their queries, can bring their thoughts, their ideas, what's going right for them, what's going wrong for them, where they need some help, how to get unstuck. And that was the whole idea behind us joining together, collaborating. So they can hear it from a man's point of view, a woman's point of view, and get that masculine, feminine energy, which I think is important.
Yeah, like, we need to be able to have open conversations. If we want a true relationship, then we have to have honest conversations. And often we are hiding parts of ourselves for fear of being exposed. And when you realize that, one of the things I realized when I stepped into this journey as a man is that I thought I was the only man on the planet that had the fucking problems that he had going on in his life. And then I went to this space and I'm listening to these women and I'm like, holy shit, it's not just me. It's not just, it's women, it's men, but we're so conditioned to shut down and hide. And in that, there's so much weight in that. There's so much suffering in that. When we can just come to the table and say, fuck, this is what's fucking going on in my life. And I've been hiding it. Even that alone, the weight, the release of that weight, once you can create space, then you can create change. But while you're holding the weight, you'll never create the space to create the change. And so, I'm just big on being vulnerable in the right places and the right spaces that serve and help you to grow as a man or a woman or as a couple, because it's my belief that strong couples or strong men create a strong community. Then we create strong relationships, and then we have strong families, and we're starting to really put the balance of masculine and feminine back in place, and families.
Yeah, and that's really important. I was having a conversation earlier today about love, and I believe we've all been shown a really poor version of love
Mm.
over time, and I think love has been so diluted and so misunderstood. Love is pure. Love is true. Love is an energy. Love is not bad. If you are in a relationship and you are feeling bad, that's not love. That's disconnect. That's that's probably past condition. It's things going on, but love in itself is pure and true, and sacred relationships can exist and do exist, but it takes intention. And I think, I don't know what you're seeing in your world, and I'd be really interested to know. For me, I still think people are not fully in relationships. They're not fully 100% in a relationship, because look at the world. There's so much stimulus around. Of course, there's another prettier person or a better looking person or somebody earning more money or somebody fitter or somebody stronger. If we're going to live like that, we're going to be in lack all the time. I see people not, we can make marriage vows. Marriage vows still is in itself is not 100% commitment. You know, who are you in a relationship turning up, showing up 100%, all of you in? Or is there that little bit that, well, I could possibly leave, or there might somebody else be out there, or I just can't expose all of me because that's just too scary. Do you know what I'm saying?
This is the truth about relationships. You see, we all think relationships are for us to get something.
Mm.
Like all the Walt Disney movies, all the movies out there are you complete me, I can't live without you, blah 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 blah. But if you realize that relationships are containers or catalysts for you healing, and that you've actually attracted in someone with a similar wound for you, and this is why I always share in my relationship work, is that when you attract that person in, it's physics, right? You're going to energetically attract that person in. But what happens is you attract them in, and God, the universe source, is always going to seek to heal the most wounded aspect of herself, which is human beings. So for us to understand wholeness, we have to feel that. So when you attract in that partner, we all know the one, and you feel this love, because you're in the absence temporarily of your childhood wounding, because you've pulled each other in and those wounds are temporarily filled. But what happens over time is that's going to start to fracture and pull apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's going to happen is you're going to start to feel triggered. So you've gone from what society would say the honeymoon phase, where you don't need sleep, you can move mountains, you could literally jump to the moon if you decided to now you're being triggered and blaming, and you're trying to get something back from that person, instead of seeing that that mirror is reflecting back to you your childhood wounding through that person, for you to actually look internally, heal that wound within yourself and free yourself, and then open up to the love that you always were. That's the first trap. We don't fall in love. That person temporarily fills our wounds. And in the absence of our wounds, we're naturally love. But especially men, we're trying to get that love we think we've lost back from that woman. And we just loop for many years and years, or we leave and go to the next relationship. And that's the best thing since sliced bread, until it's not. And usually the pattern gets shorter, because God's like, man, you need to hurry up and sort this shit out. But it's so true. Like, you never go, when we're wounded, we're always going to awaken those wounds within the relationship. And then this is the trap. You're unconsciously holding back. You're unconsciously holding back. You've closed down your heart. You're holding back. You don't even know it, but you're looking for the other person to move first. And until you move in your own self, they can never move. And so it's this push and pull between the man and the woman, till either something breaks and you go your separate ways, or you realize, oh, I can see it and I've got to do something about this.
And like, when I'm dealing with couples or even individuals who are working on their relationship, there's never really, like, there's not many bad people out there. Do you know what I mean? I know there's some terrible relationships and there's some terrible toxicity out there, and I do see all of that, and I've been in relationships like that. So I'm not taking that away from anyone. But in most mainstream relationships, we want to say, well, they're doing that and they're doing that, and if only this and if only that. But it's always a two-way streak. It's always a two-way streak, because I remember even being in a really toxic relationship. I enabled a lot of that behavior. I enabled it. So I have to own that as well. Yes, it was extremely toxic and abusive, but I enabled a lot of that stuff. But take away the toxicity and let's just go to mainstream. this is why I think it's so important that both people do the work, because even if one person is being triggered more than the other, there's still things being brought up for both people, isn't there? And not
Yeah,
one person is an angel and the other person's not the devil.
this is the trap, right? We're always wanting the other person to change without changing. And I always say life's a mirror, it's not a window.
Mm,
What you are seeing is a representation of your internal state that you don't want to look at because it hurts. It's triggering you. That's why it's triggering you. And as soon as you can see, everything's a relationship, a romantic relationship, money, it's all a relationship, and it's all a mirror of your core internal beliefs that you develop in your childhood that have been reinforced throughout your life until you get to the point where you go, whoa, man, this is the same pattern that happened in the last relationship. It's just a different face, or this same argument or situations come around with my wife or husband again. And you
mm-hmm,
start to see patterns over time. And as you start to see the pattern, you realize that you're actually getting something from it. Like no one can actually do anything to you in a relationship that you allow, because if someone disrespects you and you stay, is showing you that you are okay with being disrespected unconsciously. And as you start to awaken and you realize, man, I love myself, I'm not accepting that, you will either leave, and then that person's now got no mirror, they've got to look at themselves. And so, I think if we went to school and learned just even the basics of how relationships truly work, the world would be a different place, Joanne, because we wouldn't have to go through so much pain and suffering. But that's unfortunately the way we learn as human beings. We got to go through some pain and suffering and get beaten up a bit before we awaken to the unconscious parts of us that are creating life. And that's really where freedom lies. It's
yeah.
very hard to shift the relationship just through changing the cause. In the beginning of a relationship, you can do anything. It's effortless, right? Because you're in love. When you're in love, well, you're not in love, you're in love with yourself. You've awoken the love. So everything's effortless. Anything's effortless when you're in love. Your business, your kids, your relationship.
Mm-hmm,
So it's actually healing those wounds that have closed down your heart, both sides, men and women,
mm-hmm,
and then getting out of that numbness, because we get so. What I realized in my relationship is that the deterioration was so slow over time, you get accustomed to it.
mm-hmm.
And you don't realize how numb and how dull you are until you actually do some work and you go, oh, wow, this is the weight of what I've been carrying. This is the numbness that I've been carrying. This is how, like, I'm pretty much dying inside without knowing it. So it's really, like, if we want a beautiful life, we're only going to find it in relationship, because that's how we relate. And
Yeah.
so, look at your relationship, and when you start to see things as a gift instead of someone's doing something to you, that's when you can change your perspective, and then you'll start to find the answers that you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. And like we talk about relationships, everything is about a relationship. And the first and foremost relationship we need to build is the one with ourselves. And that is doing that inner work, isn't it? And like, people, again, I see so many people and they think they haven't got anything to heal, or, oh, no, my childhood was idyllic. I can almost guarantee it wasn't. There's probably moments where it was idyllic, but there's definitely things that have been put on you, or conditioning, or programming, or whatnot. And it might not have been your parents, it might have been teachers at school, it might have been siblings, it might be the most obscure thing, but nobody comes out of their childhood unscathed. And we all need to do that work. And again, you mentioned about going back to school, talking about relationships. Gosh, I would so love it if it was on the curriculum, to practice self-love, to practice self-care, to know oneself, to understand that those big people around us at the time they don't know everything. They don't know if they're just holding it together themselves. And just the amount of healing that could take place if we just did things slightly differently would be so beautiful.
Yeah, it's like I've been talking to my father and people, and of the older generation of our parents, and a lot of them had huge mental health issues. Like I found out my father was on antidepressants from his early 20s. My mother was the same. She's very, very mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
So you're growing up in an environment where you need the number one resource a child needs, the only resource a child needs is love. So if you haven't received that from a healed space or from a very, we're never going to be completely healed, but from a very empowered, positive place,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to develop attachment style that whatever you need to attach to survival will be whatever you needed as a child. And I work with clients that have grown up in multi-million dollar families that
Mm-hmm.
are some of the most messed up people on the planet, right down to people that grew up in poverty with domestic violence. It's not always the big traumas that create problems. It can just be the prolonged dad's not available emotionally, mum's not available emotionally.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says on this planet, every single one of us has taken on traumas, taken on beliefs from those traumas. That's really the key. Is it's not so much the trauma, it's the belief that I formed about myself as a child in that experience that I'm trying not to recreate in my adult life because it was so painful.
Mm-hmm.
And in trying not to recreate it unconsciously, I keep recreating it to see where I'm not free. And, as soon as you realize, and it takes, you'll know this, Joanne, once you look at it and you step in, you can't step out. This is why people resist.
Mm-hmm.
Because once I admit the truth of my reality, instead of the bullshit story that I'm posting on social media, the bullshit show I put on when I'm in public with my partner, energetics don't lie. So once I admit it to myself, there's no going back.
Hmm. I know. And it is really, really scary, but it's the most empowering thing a person can do. It's like,
It's,
it's the fear, isn't it? It's the fear. And I can see, like, because, if depending on how old you are when you come to the table and you want to do this work, there could be years and years of like facades and protection put up and habits formed, coping mechanisms. And it's stripping all of that away to get to the truth of who you are and why you think the way you do, but to then go in and find your truth. Because just because you've been thinking a certain thing for so long, it's often not even your truth. It's so far away from your truth, and you wonder why you've been feeling less than, or like life has not been truly fulfilling, even if you're hugely successful in whatever way that looks to you. There's that element inside where it's just not enough. It's usually because it's that discord with self.
yeah, yeah. I was talking to a friend this morning who was talking to some of New Zealand's wealthiest businessmen and women, and they're saying how they've got it all. They couldn't want for $1 more, but they feel empty. Like, what's the point? And I said to him, success will start to taunt you if you don't feel whole,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there comes a point where you realize like you cannot fill the internal void with external things, whether it's a person, whether it's money, whether it's fame, success, whatever. You'll never fill the void. In fact, the more you try to fill it,
The bigger
the,
it gets.
the emptier you will feel. And this is why we're here. And I'm not saying that go and create beautiful success, abundance, for sure. But do it from a place where you're feeling fulfilled in life. You feel whole, you feel connected, you love yourself so much that you're allowing that energy into the relationship with your children, your wife, your husband, the world, because we're living in a facade. We're living in a show. We're living in the greatest show we'll ever see in history because social media, and whether we like it or not, I remember hearing just recently about one of these big influencers that all these young girls are looking up to and want to be unconsciously and consciously, said she took 76 photos to get the one to post up. So we're looking at the world saying, I want to be you, but that person is actually hating themselves so much that it took 76 photos for them to get one that they like to put up. And so, we need to stop looking externally and we need to just pull back and go, you know what? Fuck, my life sucks right now. My relationship is not what I want it to be. my finances, my health, whatever it is. And it's all a relationship with myself. So what is the relationship with myself? And start looking at that. And that can be brutal because you're going to find out some of the things you thought, some of the things you believed, most of the things you thought and believed were a lie that you couldn't see. And but I wouldn't change it for the world, Joanne, because I realized if I didn't stop, I would have been feeling like this, on my deathbed or late in my life. And what a travesty to not know who you truly are and to not allow that version of yourself into the world to experience the joy of it all, a loving relationship with a man or a woman, like, an open heart with your children, connection, community, friendship, finance, abundance. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you're saying. I totally agree. And it is, I wouldn't change it either. And it's painful at times. It's hugely painful at times, but it's worth every bit of pain rather than living in constant pain for the rest of your life, living a lie. And that's if I can offer that to anybody who's listening, we are programmed to not feel powerful. It's easier for us to not feel powerful. Look at any marketing material, look at anything like, say, fear mongering. We are even taking away our power from an early age. Schools don't allow us to ask questions. Most of them, they tell us what's right and what's wrong. When we come to question it, we're not taught to be curious. We're not taught to be open-minded. Our power is stripped away from us slowly but surely throughout life. But I can promise you, you are more powerful than what you can ever imagine. And if your life is a shit show, you've created it. It's been from your energetics. You've welcomed it. And that might seem like a really bitter pill to swallow right now, thinking you might get offended, you might get triggered. If you are triggered or offended, I'm happy because I have moved something in you right now. So if you is a shit show and it's like, oh my God, just know that, just feel empowered because you've energetically aligned that. If you want it to be different, you've got the power to make it different. And that is the most exciting thing. That was the thing that blew my mind. I lived in depression for 20 years. I had this like severe depression. And we talked about this whole childhood thing. If you're not feeling stable as a child, if things happen in your childhood, these mental illnesses can creep in so easily. And I felt so disempowered my entire life. And then I thought, no, it was like, I hit my rock bottom, as they say, and I shot up and I was like, no more. But now I know each and every day, it's not worth me complaining about my life. If I don't like it, I'll do something to look within to change it. And you can all do the same.
And that's the number one. I don't care what anyone says, your only goal in this life is to overcome the limitation that you've taken on or that you've come here to transcend. And that's why I love Carl Jung's quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and call it fate. And I was just talking with a friend this morning, and I said 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about the unconscious. I didn't know a thing about subconscious. I didn't know anything about trauma. I knew nothing about it, Joanne. And it wasn't until my marriage ended, one day, bang, gone, over 20 years of marriage gone, that I'm like, oh, fuck. Well, I didn't see that coming, even though I did. But I'm like, oh, okay. And I remember sitting in my sunroom and the egoic self came up and it was like, oh, fuck her, fuck everything. I'm just going to get my shit together, go out in the world, get all my finances sorted, get a new woman and move on with my life. And I remember it clearly. I remember this voice. I don't know where it came from. Well, yeah, I do. I just know it was God saying this is the time. That stop, there's something you can't see. And I remember just sitting there just going, stop, there's something you can't see. And that day changed everything because I was like, fuck. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. And I look back on my relationship and I seen the definition of insanity. And then I seen the patterns. And then I was like, wow, I can't unsee that now. I'm like, well, I can't do the same thing I've done all these years. And then that's when I started looking for, well, who has the answers? Who can at least start me on this journey? And then the first session I went into, I'm like, wow, no wonder your relationship's been like that. No wonder your cycles with money have been like that. No wonder the cycles with your health have been like that. And then from there, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I always say that that protective part of us, this is why there's so much resistance to doing this work, especially for men. Women are a lot more open, but because you're going to have to feel the part of yourself that created the part that's protecting you. So the minute you step in, that part of you is already in defense. And if you create any space, give it any space between taking action and moving forward, it will creep in and it will talk you out of the very thing that you need to do to be free. But once again, there's rock bottom and then there's real rock bottom.
Yes, there is. And you don't have to hit either of them to do the work, but often most people do. Yeah. And like, if I can offer anybody anything as well, we go in, we have these beautiful relationships. We want to have a beautiful relationship. We are here for love and connection. However, people want to sell that to you, or however you want to sell it to yourself, whether you want to be monogamous or not monogamous. I think all of our relationships are there to mirror something to us. They're all for our growth and evolution. And even if you decide to do the work, or if both of you decide to do the work and it still doesn't work out the relationship, the work that you do is never wasted. The work you do is never, ever wasted. And that's why when I work with couples, even if they can consciously uncouple in a nice way, that's way better than living together in a shit show and not making each other happy. But the work that we do is never, ever, ever wasted.
Nah, and one thing we need to realize is not every relationship is meant forever, despite what the movies and religion and everything says. Not every single relationship is meant forever.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you need to understand is that staying, there's this myth or whatever out there that, oh, we should stay together for the kids. And what you are unconsciously teaching your children is that you stay in a relationship that does not serve you, that is not love, that is not growth, that is not expansion. And I always say this: your children will do what you do, not what you say.
Yes, they will.
So they learn by feeling, seeing. We think they learn by what we tell them. That is just a smidgen of what they actually learn. They are picking up on your frequency from your nervous system. They are picking up on the body language between your husband and the husband and the wife. And they are learning that, oh, this is what love is. This is what relationship is. This is why you'll see people will repeat the same relationship. They can't see it, but everyone else can see, fuck, they got the same relationship that their mum and dad had, or they've called in someone like their mum, or they've called in someone like their dad. Yep. And this is what I say, the ultimate form of self-love is self-respect. So like Joanne said, if you do the work and you realize, hey, this person's not for me. I love you, I do, but I love me more. This is a quote I share with all the men. I love you, I really do. I love you for all you've brought to my life. I love you for my children that you've given me, whatever it is. But I love me more and I'm going to choose myself. And think about that. If you do that from a place of love and not ego, your children are going to learn that far out. The most important person in my life is me. And if I love me and honor myself, I will always love and honor the people in my life. And so when we're not loving and honoring ourselves and we're staying in these relationships without doing the work, and we've settled into, oh, well, this is better or safer than me moving or divorcing or splitting everything up or having separate homes for the kids, then we're just creating pain and suffering that's going to go down to our children and then carry on down the line. And that's why I say we're in this time where, you can't help but hear a message now. Because I'm hearing from women like you that are coaches, that are coaching incredible women. Every single day they're messaging me. So the message is out there now. The question is are you going to choose to turn a blind eye, or are you going to go, oh, what Joanne said the other day on that live or in her message this morning hits the spot. I might just reach out and start looking a little deeper, because it's a travesty to stay in something that started so beautifully and ends so dull with resentment, pain, regret for both parties. And
Absolutely.
to me, if you love someone, set them free.
Absolutely. And
You
it's
know?
never too late to do the work either, is it, Stacey? You know, I have people, I have such a rich tapestry of clients. Like sometimes I deal with teenagers, sometimes I have an influx of early 20s, and then sometimes I'm having people up to their 60s, 70s, and I go, this is awesome. It is never, ever, ever too late. And it's never too early either, by the way. So, you know, if you are listening to this day and you are getting these tingles or there's something inside you, just know it's never too late. You know, I'm 47 now and I've been on this journey for quite a while, but I fucked it up for quite a while.
Yeah, well, I'm 47 too. So I only started this journey 3 years ago. And like I said, I didn't know a damn thing about any of the stuff that I've been talking about with you and people over the last few years. But it's the realest thing I've ever known.
Mm,
You
yeah.
know, like when you step into the space and you bring forward some unconscious belief and you feel it, and you bring forward a trauma from your past and you relive it and let it go somatically, emotionally, and then you bring when you realize that that's been stuck in my body for
Mm,
40 something years or however long it's been there, and there's a bunch of these things and then there's beliefs around it. You want to do the work because you want to free yourself to be free. People think they want the cars, the houses, the money, the woman, the men. The truth is, all you want is relief from the pressure that is building up from the things that you haven't processed and dealt with, and the
mm,
thoughts that keep recreating the energy. Once you don't need anything, you can have everything. You know, like I remember saying to my wife for years, "Oh, I just want you to love me like you used to." And one day I was sitting there and I have this thing now where I take 100% responsibility for everything I'm seeing in my world, but I'm still a human being and I'm still a man, so I'm still stubborn.
mm.
And I was sitting there one day and I was looking at her and I was like, you don't even love you. How the fuck is she meant to love you if you don't even love you? You're not even respecting you. You're not even showing up for you, and you want her to show up? That's the child in you, Stacey. And then I had to look at that part and take responsibility for that and accountability for that. And as I change that in my world, oh wow, guess what happens? My wife starts opening up and I'm like, oh, but we're taught to look for it outside from a young age, look externally for my needs because I haven't been able to cultivate them internally. And I've created a belief that I need something externally to make myself feel whole, to feel alive, to feel loved. This is what doing this internal work's about.
Because there is a lot of people wearing adult suits who are still very, very small children. I mean, like, you know, and I, again, because I deal with a lot of parents as well, they come to me, oh, my child's doing this, or I want them to do that. Well, are you doing that? Can you do that? You know, we expect our children to regulate their emotions, to behave like adults, to be grown up, to have good manners. And I look around at the adults and I'm like, come on, guys, we've got to be better role models. And the only way we're going to be better role models is to stop, to press the stop button and to do the reset. And the reset is the heal, and the reset is going within, whether it's with a coach like you and I, Stacey, or if you want to listen to a million podcasts and listen to the TED Talks and read all the books and do the work. But the thing is, it's doing the work. It's not just reading and listening, it's actually embodying it and doing it. And that's where I do think coaching is phenomenal like that, because you have somebody to be accountable to and to learn from as well. You know, we've walked the walk, we've talked the talk, and we're still doing it each and every day. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, you need a coach.
Mm.
I don't care whether it's me or Joanne, but you're going to need someone because you can't see your own shit.
You
That's
don't
why
want
it's
to.
called that's why it's called unconscious. Everyone else can see your own shit. Like if I tell someone who's going through some shit in their life to tell me about all the shit of their husband or their wife, they'll tell me everything that's wrong with them, with their wife, that she needs to change. As soon as I ask the man, oh, they might find one surface level thing like, oh, I probably should stop drinking every night, or you know what I mean. You will
Yeah.
never be able to see. That's what's called unconscious. It's played so long in your life that you cannot see it. It's like your heart beating.
Mm.
And so you need someone to be able to shine the mirror back to see what you can't see. And I always say, you know, like your conscience, every culture since the dawn of time has said our conscience is the authentic voice of God. guiding us on our journey. So if you're listening to a video and Joanne resonates, or I resonate, or another coach resonates, and it says, fuck, I need to work with that, or I need to get in touch with them, and you don't do it, that was your intuition, God, source whispering to you, hey, there's the next step on your journey. But we're so conditioned to, oh nah, pull out, I'll figure it out. Oh nah, I've got time. But the longer you leave it, the deeper of the hole you're going to dig. And so, why keep digging? Just stop digging. Just stop digging and put the spade down and get somebody to help you, because the thing I've learned, especially for men, but I see this with women too, is we're so afraid of being exposed. We're so afraid of being exposed, because being exposed is what created the ego, or created those programs. And being exposed at a primal levels means I'm going to be exiled from the tribe. I'm not going to fit in. I'm not going to belong. So, when you're facing, when you first step into the space, you're facing off with a part of you that thinks you're going to die. This is why it's so scary to do it, and why we go through so much pain before we actually can do it.
But like when you talk about that exposing yourself, I think I love your words, and I love how you always explain things. You're always so eloquent. But each and every day, I know I expose myself now, and I'm sure you're the same. I live in full exposure. Like, there's no holds barred. People wonder sometimes, like, I have lots of people thanking me for the posts I'll write, but some people are like, oh, but why would you put that out there? I put it out there because it's really important to. I'm doing it because I am not ashamed of anything I have done. I have messed up. I have done things. I now stand in my power and take full responsibility. I fully expose myself. You see the full version of me. I don't have to hide. And you know what? It's exhilarating.
Oh,
It's exhilarating, it's energizing, it's exciting, and I don't have to live by the beat of anybody else's drum. And I want that for everybody. That's my one wish for everybody, so they can feel so good. Because, and don't get me wrong, life can still be shit at times, but they can throw the curveballs. That's life, that's it. But I still feel good even in the shit.
Yeah. Well, once you start exposing yourself, there's nothing to hide. And that's the weight. Like, I use the analogy when men, sometimes I'll just have a joke with them, when we sit down, and I'm like, so when are you going to put the bag of rocks down? And they're like, fuck, what do you mean? I don't have a bag of rocks, what are you on about? And then we'll do the session, and they'll literally open their eyes and they'll go, fuck, I've got a big bag of rocks.
They're heavy.
And I don't know I know it's a lot. I think it's a lot more natural for women to move into the space. I know men really struggle. I remember my first experience after my wife left, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know anything about where to look. And I'm like, none of me wanted to go to a counselor or anything like that. And I remember a few days later seeing this guy post up this breath workshop, and I knew him through performance breath work, and he had these list of things, and I'm like, fuck, that's me. And I'm like, fuck, that's all me. So I remember reaching out to him, had a quick call with him, bro, I'm in, signed up, paid him, and I was like fizzing, because I'm like, oh, fuck, this is awesome. I'm going to start to be able to unravel. And I drive up to Hamilton, and I walk through the doors of the building. And as soon as I walked, he was a male facilitator, but as soon as I walked through the doors, Joanne, here's these 6 women. And I remember the door went like that, and I went, fuck, where's the other men? And that part of me said, you fucking idiot, get out of there. And I literally shut the door, and I was walking out. I was like, you can have my money, I'm done. I do not want to be here. But he caught me in the car park, and he was like, where are you going? And I think I said, I just forgot my pen or something. But he dragged me, got me back in there, and I'm standing in the room before we go into the actual space, and I'm like, oh, fuck. He's going to ask me first. He's going to ask me first, because I'm the only male here. Why did you come here? So we go into the space, and I literally had my head down, and under my breath, I'm like, just don't ask me, man. Just anyone else, just don't ask me. And he goes, so we'll get into it. Stacy, what brought you here? And my heart sunk. And the cartoons with the little devils on the shoulder and the angels on the shoulder, and the devil's like in my ear, the ego's in my ear going, fuck, just lie. Just say this is going on or that's going on. Just don't tell the truth. And that same voice that I heard in the sunroom said, if not now, then when?
Mm.
And in that moment, I said, fuck, I'm done. I don't want to carry this anymore. And I just, for the first time in my life, I shared the truth. And I told stuff or shared stuff on that in that space that I hadn't even shared with my wife, things that had gone on in my life. And I cried in front of these women. And at the end of it, the relief. And then the next lady shares, I've got stage 4 cancer. I've got 2 kids, one's 4, one's 7, and I'm fighting for my life. Now I'm crying. Oh, my husband's cheated on me, and I'm fucking crying for her because I'm like, holy fuck, I thought I had it bad. You know, and the next lady shares, and they go around, and you realize we're fucking hiding, but we all got the same thing going on. And she has no time to think about me.
Mm-hmm.
She's got no time to be speaking about my shit or thinking
No.
about it. She's fighting for her life, her children, and her survival. And it was the greatest moment in my journey because that's where the true freedom came. Because, like, I'm just exposing myself. So there's nothing to hide now. So there's nothing to protect unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you've got nothing to protect unconsciously, you start getting your energy back, your life force back, your frequency goes up. So if your frequency goes up, you're going to start to attract in different people into your life, whether it's a partner, your relationship will shift. So.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love every word. I love every moment that we spend together, Stacey, because you just speak my language. So thank you. And thank you for doing this collaboration. I think it's going to be awesome. So all that we want as well is for people to come to us, come talk to us, come be brave. You don't have to come on camera. You don't have to, you can be anonymous if you want, but come to us with your issues, your thoughts, your beliefs, advice. I don't really like the word advice, but you know what I mean. Whatever you want to talk about, and it doesn't have to be your romantic relationship. It can be family, it can be children. This is about relationships and making all our relationships sacred. You might not even be in a relationship, but it might just be something that you want to do for you. It might be some healing that you're thinking of. So if there's anything that you want us to cover, because we're going to meet every week for the foreseeable future, so come with us, come talk to us, let it out, and let us help in any way we can.
Yeah. And one of the things I want people to understand is you're not in a relationship with that person. You're in a relationship with the parts of you that you haven't healed, resolved, or transcended. So if you really want to change your life, especially the men out there, because I know a lot of the women are doing the work, there's so many, I shared this the other day, there's so many incredible women out there that are single doing the work. And there's so many men out there saying, where are all the incredible women? Well, don't think you're going to get one of them if you don't level up, because you just won't. They will not come into your frequency. So, and not only that, if you're in a relationship, you know, with a woman, men are meant to lead. Like, I see women leading the healing journey, if I'm honest, because I follow Joanne, I see the group she's in, I see the connections the women have, and it's natural for women to feel emotions and feelings and to go into that space. And for men, it's not. But one of the things that I learned is the more I let go of, the less that has a hold on me. And when you're suppressing emotions as a man, you become numb, you close down your heart, and you cannot step into your healed masculine energy in that space. So like Joanne said, I wish I had someone like this just to even ask a question of, wow, this is happening, what do I do? Even if it's anonymous, to get an answer to something that's burning inside, or there's a problem in your life that we don't want to admit we have problems.
Oh, we've all got them.
We've all got them, Eric.
Yeah, and don't be ashamed. Just come to us. And on that lovely note, we believe everybody can be healed, no matter what you've been through. You've all got the power. So come join us again next Tuesday at 2:00.
Yeah.